Wow, so pretty. Wait, is this place not real?
Hi, welcome to Lolo Plays. Today I want to tell you my story of playing Genshin Impact. As someone who did not know what a gacha game was.
Genshin Impact is an open-world action-adventure role-playing game created by a company with the coolest slogan, MiHoYo, a Shanghai-based private studio with very humble beginnings. Since its release in September 2020, it has become an international sensation. So much so that people would commit to what essentially are online learning courses about the game content while staring into lectures synthesized from the Windows notepad. Guilty. The game is also a commercial success. It grossed over $1 billion within the 6 months of release. And technically, it's free, but we'll come back to that one later. The story follows the player, referred to here as the traveler, who has traveled across many worlds with their twin. But at the very start of the game, becomes separated from their twin by an unknown god in Tibet. The story then unfolds as the traveler travels across Tibet in search for their lost sibling, and in the process, fight monsters, encounter and befriends people, nation by nation. The game features a vast, beautiful, and open world, where players can explore freely by gliding, walking, sprinting, climbing, or swimming. While exploring, you can kill enemies, collect resources, and improve your in-game characters you could play as. Currently, there are more than 30 playable characters. Each has their own unique skills, personalities, and backstories. And did I mention that you can cook in this game and play music, play hide and seek, build houses, do interior decoration, defend towers? That's just to name a few. So far, only 2 out of the 7 nations have been released. It is expected that it would take another 6 to 7 years for the entire game to conclude. Some 3 months ago, on a relaxing afternoon, I was just casually browsing YouTube, and YouTube recommended me a Chinese cooking video of a roast chicken dish, and the title goes something like 500% accurate, replicating the Sweet Madame dish from Genshin Impact. And I've never heard of this game. I click on this video, there are some screenshots from the game, and they looked really good. And I was like, you can cook this dish in this game? You see, I'm a sucker for cooking in games, especially if the game is not mainly about cooking. So next thing I know, I'm watching YouTube reviews on the game. Like, right away, I was really intrigued by how visually beautiful and well produced this game seems to be. And all the reviews are really relatively positive. So it really made me wonder, how come I didn't hear about this game until 6 months after its launch? I mean, I follow so many game reviewers, and none of my favorites did mention this game at all. I heard nothing of it. So maybe it has something to do with the fact that it's not a regular AAA game. It is in fact a gacha game. Although Genshin Impact looks and plays just like any other story-driven RPG titles, like our good old Assassin's Creed, Red Dead Redemption, and Mass Effect, the business model is very different. It is gacha. My first reaction was that, what does the gacha has to do with video games? Oh, the innocence. For those of you who have not been to Asia, gacha is short for gachapon, a type of toy vending machine originated in Japan. Usually, each of these machines holds a variety of toys of the same theme in plastic capsules. You put a coin in and you get a random toy from that particular theme. And there is obviously a gambling element to it. If you really want a particular one, then you might have to play it multiple times to might or might not get that particular toy. A gacha game then is essentially implementing this mechanism into the video games, where the game encourages players to spend in-game currency to receive a random virtual item. And in the case of Genshin Impact, high-tier characters and weapons. We'll come back to that later. Being someone who's rather careful with money, cheap, I hesitated. However, with the assurance that
it certainly flirts with being pay to win, but manages to strike a decent balance so that those who don't want to spend a dime can still enjoy the whole game.
And that
it's a free-to-play game, guys, so obviously if you want to download it and try it for yourself, that's an easy option. You don't have to spend money, you don't have to do anything other than download it and jump into the world.
I do just that. Let adventure begin! The world Genshin Impact has created is truly vast and breathtaking. Although only 2 out of the 7 nations are currently released, the size of the map to explore is comparable to some of the AAA games. The 2 nations released so far, Mondstadt and Liyue, were influenced by Western European and Chinese culture respectively. The Alpine area, twin of these 2 states, Dragonspine, is inspired by the European Alps. For me, it was particularly intriguing to see the traditional Chinese culture representation here, as it is not yet very common in popular games. Outside the cities, the areas in the nature are all very uniquely designed, inspired by real-world landscapes found around the world. One of my favorite areas in the game is the Luhua Pool. It is inspired by the Huanglong National Park, located in the northwest part of Sichuan in China. If I get a chance, I would definitely want to visit Sichuan. Not only does it have amazing sights like this, the cuisine is famous to be hot and spicy. If nothing else, I think it's totally worth it just to download this game for free and check out the world, the environment, run around in it, fly through it, climb on the top of things, and hang out with your friends in it. If you have any friends that would be willing to play this game with you, that is, unlike me. Anyhow, I would recommend it. Since I got introduced to the music, in Genshin Impact, I have been playing its soundtrack album on Spotify non-stop. The music changes based on the style of the area, a lot of effort and music have been created for this game. And look at this recording session, it's simply magnificent. The music around Mondstadt was performed by London Philharmonic Orchestra, while the music for Liyue is performed by Shanghai Symphony Orchestra. All the music so far in-game was composed by one person, a very talented local musician from Shanghai called Chen Yupeng. For Liyue specifically, he combined the traditional Chinese instrument with orchestral music. All the behind-the-scenes videos of Genshin Impact have been very fun to watch. The next nation to be released, supposedly this summer, Inazuma, would be inspired by the Japanese culture, and I'm so excited to see the behind-the-scenes for that recording session in the future. Although the consensus on the internet seems to be saying that story is Genshin Impact's weakest point, I quite enjoy it. I wouldn't say that I read every single line, I do jump through them a lot. But for me, the good thing about it is that for a cutesy looking game, the story is surprisingly at times very deep, dark, and sad even. And not to spoil anybody's main story quest, I would just like to use this very small side quest to illustrate this point. The story starts with you and your in-game companion discussing what an imaginary friend is. And you were telling her that, yes, imaginary friends disappears once you grow up. You subsequently receive a magical tool, which allows you to look at people's imaginary friend if they have one. Later, while delivering a message for a girl in town, you by chance save 2 people in a cave from the monsters that were about to hurt them. One of the person identifies himself as the Great Adventure Stanley. Honestly, I wasn't paying that much attention, but even I felt like I have heard this name before in game. Like people in town were talking about him all the time, so this guy was really quite famous. There's no good way to say this, but this guy came across as a bit of a douche. He was always bragging about how amazing he is and how famous and important he is. So I tried to jump through all the stuff he was saying. While using our little gadget, strangely, we saw that Stanley's imaginary friend looked like an older, rougher version of himself. So this guy is narcissistic enough to be imaginary friend with himself? Anyhow. But the young adventurer next to him seems to be really admiring him, and he was telling us that Stanley once told him when he was drunk that there was this one sword and one shield that was legendary. It was used during a legendary adventure, and he was hoping we could help him retrieve those things, and we'd do just that. After we got to these two things, so very easily because we're awesome, we found out that the sword and the shield are just scrap metal and junk. So that was weird, but the young guy was very excited for them and decided to take them back in town and repair them. All the while, we found that Stanley dude creepily stalking us, and that's when I knew something is off with that guy. So next thing we know, we go back to the tavern in town and seeing this Stanley guy pretty much totally wasted and breaking down somewhat. After a little bit of eavesdropping, we hear this.
It should have been me. I should have been the one to die in the Miljabari that day. Why won't your spirit come and stop me from using your name? Why, Stan? Why? If only you hadn't had to save a rookie like me, you would have never died in that windless corner of the world.
It turns out that Stanley is not the real Stanley. The real Stanley died saving him many, many years ago, and he could not live with the survivor guilt so much so that he took on Stanley's identity and lived as him. Granted, not all the stories in Genshin Impact have that much depth, but I still think this is one point that really brought me joy. Related to the story are the characters that you will meet and befriend, and that leads us to the next point. I think the character designs in this game has also been a highlight for me. There are more than 30 playable characters at this point, and you meet a lot of those characters during the main story quest, which for me is probably the best way of introducing a character. It's like playing through a movie, but afterwards you get to become the character yourself. And each of them are truly unique. They have their own backstories. The element sort of fits with their personality, and they have very unique skills that you could use in battle. One of my favorite characters in-game is Xiangling. She is a chef. You get to know her through a food-related quest, precisely because she is such a famous chef in Liyue, and you sort of get to know her right before the whole Liyue nation is unlocked. I remember the script was describing the dishes and the culture of eating in Liyue and how she really loves spicy food. And look at her costume design, you can also tell she really likes spicy food and her element is fire. One of her skills is called guoba. Actually, I don't know if that's what's called, but she would let out a small bear that breathes fire. I really appreciate all these small details that goes into the characterization. Now that you heard all the amazing things I had to say about Genshin Impact, are you super excited to jump in and play with me? Not so fast. Although I would really love to have someone to play with. There are 2 elephants in the room that I would like to address, both connected to the gacha mechanism of the game. So the first elephant, I suppose, is the endless grind of the end game, and the very addictive nature of the awards and leveling system the game has built in place. So when we say endgame, we mean that when you have explored the area that has already been released in-game and finished all the story quests, this is where regular story-based open world game would end. You know, when the story is ended and the world is all explored, the game ends, the credit rolls. But because Genshin Impact is a gacha game that is designed to drip feed the content to its player, the story hasn't ended and the world hasn't been released to be explored. So usually there are quite a few months in between new map or new world content will be released. What do people do during this time? Usually then the gameplay changes in style, it becomes very repetitive. You would be killing the same boss monster over and over again, doing the same dungeon over and over again, and do the commissions and quests that are cycling through over and over again. So you might be asking, how do you then keep the players around and keep them engaged if the content suddenly becomes so repetitive? So the answer Genshin Impact resorted to, which is very common in other gacha games, is a very comprehensive leveling system. And as we all know, video games have levels, and that sort of small achievement every time you hit it or leveled up, there's endorphin being released in your brain. But I have never seen as comprehensive leveling system in other games before. Probably also because this is my first gacha game. So just to illustrate how many things you can possibly level up in this game, which is really everything. First of all, you as a player has a level that's called an adventure rank. So as I do more quests and finish playing more of the game, I get the experience to be leveled up as an adventurer. And then there are multiple characters, as I said before, there are more than 30 characters that are playable. Every character you get, they have their own levels. And that's not enough, because they also hold weapons, and each their weapons can be leveled up. To add more on that, they have 5 pieces of artifacts. Artifacts are kind of like accessories that boost your combat skills, and each of those artifacts can be leveled up. And that is not all. Each of the characters also have their unique skills. Each of those skills can be leveled up. Recently, a housing system has been released in Genshin Impact where you could build your own house. Actually, you have an entire world you can decorate, and there's a leveling system as well. And there's also something called a battle pass, which renews once a month, and you have to do certain activities in game in order to get experience to fill the battle pass. And the battle pass would then provide you with, experience books for your characters and experience for your weapons and all the rewards. And sometimes they would also give you free in-game currencies, so you can actually wish for characters that otherwise have to be paid for. So why is this a problem? It's not necessarily a problem. I think there are people who really enjoy the repetitive grinding, or there are people who really enjoy the combat system of the game. They like to being able to optimize their skills and kill the boss easier, get better at it. However, I do feel like it is important to be mindful that you really think about it. It is that it's me who made the decision that I want to spend this amount of time doing this repetitive gameplay, and is it not, or did you want to do this yourself, or did you do it because you're on autopilot? You sort of shut down your brain and you sort of just, keep getting the endorphin drip because you want to be leveled up. And I think as long as you manage to mindfully make that decision to say, yes, I do want to play, then spend all the free time you can afford on it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm not so huge with combat, and I'm pretty bad at it, and I don't really appreciate the grind so much. It's really the story and the world that put me into the game, both of which are finished now for me until the next update. So I recently found myself being kind of angry and frustrated when I was trying to kill a boss as fast as possible just to get the reward. And that just feels like an unfulfilling job, doing things you're not interested in doing just to get paid, right? And that's not how I want to play the game. So I sort of realized this afterwards, and I just want to say that in order to have a really good experience, spend our free time, precious free time properly, just be mindful if this is what you want to do and not to get sucked in by the game design and mechanism. Genshin Impact can still be played really mindfully, and people can still have a lot of fun. Can easily just pause the game and wait until new content to be delivered, new worlds, new areas to be explored. Supposedly in the summer, the Japan-inspired area will drop, and then go back to that. If the first elephant in the room is to do with mindfully, spending your energy and time, the second elephant in the room obviously is to be mindfully spending your hard-earned cash. But to be fair, I have been playing Genshin Impact for 3 months now, and I have achieved adventure rank 45. I feel like I've spent a lot of time on this game.
AR 45. How much? I mean, you barely started playing the game.
Also, people might disagree. I think I didn't really feel like I had to pay anything. The game really has been quite fair. As a casual gamer, it's totally possible to do free-to-play. The issue here is, though, as I want to say, the payment system in here is not that you pay and you get a character in return. You pay for the chances to gamble for them, and in Genshin Impact it's called Wish, and it is legally required for the gaming companies to show the percentage, the probability for a wish to come true, for you to actually get the high tier character, and the probability is very, very low. So if you would want to guarantee a 5-star character, it could cost you up to a bit less than $200 each. And again, the leveling system comes in, you can unlock different skills for the same character if you have wished for them, or if you've gotten more than one copy of it. So the maximum copy of a character to be leveled fully, or to be wished on fully, is 6. So a fully decked out character could cost easily under $2,000. So I have seen, obviously, content creators have spent insane amount of money on this game, but mostly just to create content. But I also have seen people seem to have been carried away during their wishing sessions, as they're not getting the things that they really want. It's just so easy to be throwing more money into because there's a sunk cost fallacy. And I want to say that I would have easily be willing to spend the full price of a standard game, like $60, $70, to support this game just for how much fun I have had from it so far. But I am afraid to put this money into the gambling system in fear that this will just open the way to hell, sort of. But I am actually curious if I am able to have that level of self-control, being someone who's rather confident in that department. Maybe I will do an experiment just to say that, hey, I played this game for so long, here's the money, and maybe I get something out of it, maybe I don't. Maybe we'll see about that. I am very curious about people who are experienced playing gacha games. What is your mentality on spending maybe like much more than you would on a regular full-priced like one-time off game. Do leave in a comment below, share some of your gacha experience if you happen to see this video and you're an experienced player. Gacha is such an interesting concept. The game really made me reflect a lot about life. I even got some life learning out of playing this game, just observing my tantrums, observing my anxiety. Sometimes the game will trigger. But I'm thinking about making a video just to talk about the life lessons I have learned through playing Genshin Impact. Stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for staying to the end. And let me know, did you have fun watching me talk about Genshin Impact? Did you know about Genshin Impact before? What did you think about it? And you haven't heard about it before, would you play it now? I know that this is not a Lolo's List of Small Delight. I actually especially started the Lolo Play series just to talk about Genshin Impact because I've been spending quite a lot of time playing it. I really wanted to, and I spent so much thoughts on why does this game make me feel the way it made me feel. I mean, I really like it on one hand. On the other hand, it's there's some kind of a love-hate relationship going on here, and couldn't quite put my finger on what is exactly causing all that. So I really wanted to talk about it, but Lolo's List of Small Delight has a quite strict criteria. For those of you who don't know, I suppose you wouldn't know, I never shared this, but in order to qualify as a Lolo Small Delight, first of all, it needs to be something that have been in my life for some time and that I'm confident will be in my life like going forward for some times to come. And also another criteria is that the Lolo's List of Small Delights should be things that I can wholeheartedly recommend to people, really push them into trying it without like severe repercussions. And for Genshin Impact, it's just a case that I couldn't really really push you guys into playing this game, knowing that there are quite tricky aspects to it. The elephants, as I call them. But I still wanted to talk to you about it. So hence the Lolo Plays, where I would use this series just to talk about the games that I really think is worthy, presenting, even though that they might be as wholesome or as permanent in my life. You might ask, like Dwarf Fortress, that's also a video game. How does that qualify as small Lolo List of Small Delights? It's because Dwarf Fortress uniquely requires the player to practice their imagination and also creativity. Both of these things are, for me, very important and very positive, and you sort of could not do these two things unless you're truly present when you play the game. And being mindful and present are something I have been very bad at in my life, but I really want to get good at, because they are skills that you could cultivate and get better at. And I think that would really make life more enjoyable and more fulfilling. So yeah, please let me know if you would like to try out Genshin Impact, even if it's just for the first part before you hit end game. I would really love to have someone to play the game with. It's not like I'm antisocial or anything. The thing is that I'm playing this game on PlayStation 4. I think Denmark might be the last country to get PlayStation 5 restocked. But when you're playing on console, you cannot really, it's so slow to chat with people. So anyhow, I put my game ID here and send me a friend request, and don't be freaked out if I'm suspiciously quiet and just being all creepy if I do visit in your world, because I can talk fast. I think most of the people are playing this game on PC. I don't know how people can possibly play this game on mobile with the control and everything, although the game does have superb performance. Apparently it runs smoothly on iPhones and stuff. Thanks so much for sticking around and listening to this rant. And I want to apologize. This video came much later than expected. It's because I have been busy with life. Not to complain, I think everybody's doing YouTube just part-time, so everybody has to make time. But summer holiday is coming. I do want to take some time from work in the summer, and I do hope to make much more videos this summer, and I do have a lot of topics in the pipeline. You can expect some videos about food coming your way. It is my birthday soon, just in a week or two, and I would go to a very nice restaurant and I want to make a video about it. So stay tuned and subscribe, like, comment, please. I really enjoy reading comments from you guys. And see you till next time.